just to get out of the program a few minutes, the people that came across the stage here is retired General Volger and his wife. He's been a Major General. He's been a speaker here before. Thank you for coming, sir. Now the Honorable Sir Francisco Zermino, Hayward City Council, will introduce our special and distinguished guests.
Had I met all of you, I would have introduced you too, but unfortunately, I only met a few. So anyway, we'll start with one of my colleagues, Marvin Peixoto, who's over there. Marvin, right? Behind Marvin is representing our Governor Jerry Brown from Sacramento, Lisa Sennett from Cal Vets. To her left is one of our first Air Force mothers, Graciela Tiscareño Sato. To her left is our former mayor, Michael Sweeney. And on the very right is former Alameda County Supervisor Gail Steele. You've already been introduced to Air Force Major General Belger and his wife Carol. And then, of course, our mayor, Barbara Holliday, with whom you met. And to her right is first husband, Rick Emsel. In the back, over there, we have our firefighters, contingency. Please, thank you very much for being here and supporting us. And thank you all for being here.
Please help me welcome Ms. Lisa Setti from the Governor's Office. She has a special proclamation to deliver today.
Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I've spent many years in state service, and it wasn't until a few years ago that I had the opportunity to move to Calvet and take on the mission with my colleagues of serving this state's veterans and their families. And it was that time when my career actually started to have some true meaning to it. In that role, I'm able to get out to the veterans' homes, and I get the opportunity to speak with those that are entrusting us to live out the rest of their days in our homes. And there's always two very common themes when I speak to them. One is, on their mind always are the comrades that were left behind, and they feel that grief every day. And secondly, I find them all too often way too surprised when we express our gratitude for their service. And what that tells me is we need to do more to make sure that it's understood that we're grateful for all that's been done for us to experience the freedoms that we do have. With that, I would like to read the proclamation that was prepared by the governor and his staff. On Memorial Day, we pay tribute to Americans who have suffered and died in war. The custom of marking this day originated just after the Civil War. To help heal the wounds of war, Americans in all parts of the country began decorating the graves of the dead with flowers, a universal symbol of the renewal of life. As a small step in the lengthy task of reuniting a nation divided, we chose to honor all of the dead, Union and Confederate, regardless of our own allegiances during that terrible struggle. After the First World War, we expanded our observance to honor all Americans who have fought and died in any of our nation's wars. In 1971, the United States Congress declared Memorial Day to be a national holiday observed on the last day in May. Today, I ask all Californians to pay tribute to our fallen military heroes. In their memory, I've ordered that flags be flown at half-staff on all state buildings and grounds throughout the state. In addition, I would ask you to participate in the National Moment of Remembrance and pause at 3 p.m. on Memorial Day for a moment of silence to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's signed by Governor Brown. With that, I would like to say that on this day and every day, shall we never forget. Thank you.
Thank you. Bear with me, changes to the program, but that's okay. The next speaker is a captain. I'm going to read a little bit about her bio, and then from there, we'll go forward. Air Force Captain Garciela Tesaro Sato served in the Air Force for over 9 years as a crew member, an instructor, and a navigator aboard the KC-135 refueling tanker. She is a graduate of Berkeley. She attended the Air Force ROTC there as a cadet. On her first deployment to Saudi Arabia, she patrolled the hostile skies over Iraq. Then, Lieutenant Tesaro and her crew received the Air Medal for meritorious service during combat operations. She has gone on to complete a master's degree in international management, and while on active duty, she accomplished that goal. She is the award-winning author of a bilingual book called Captain Mama. It's a picture book series inspired by her aviation service and her son. She serves veterans organizations and school districts as a keynote speaker, in bilingual STEM consultant, and respectively, our local captain was recently honored by the White House as the Champion of Change Women Veterans Leader, lives in Hayward, California. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the Cap.
Thank you so much, William. In the summer of 1998, my friend Captain Ken Thiel and I were Chief Instructor, Pilot, and Navigator, respectively, in our KC-135 unit, 93rd Air Refueling Squadron, Fairview Air Force Base.
Use the mic. Glasses and we can't
Is it
hear
on?
you.
How's that?
Better.
Now it's on. Okay. We were charged with the training and readiness of all in our unit. We spent hours in training flight talking about life and philosophy and future plans. Michelle, Ken's wife, was about to give birth to their first child, and Ken was pondering leaving the active duty service for the National Guard that enjoyed shorter trips overseas. He wanted to be home to raise his child. Coming up on the end of my service, Ken and I popped over together during lunch to find out about this unit. Major Matt Leho was the officer who greeted us at the 141st Air Refueling Squadron that day and gave us a tour. Ken made the move to the unit that fall after the birth of his son. Just after the new year in 1999, I deployed to the U.S. Embassy in Quito, Ecuador for a special assignment, and Ken deployed with the Guard unit to Germany for 2 weeks. On the morning of January 14th, I received a phone call at my embassy office from my friend Jim Sugden, KC-135 boom operator, who'd flown with that crew in Cell that night. He told me, a KC-135 we flew with crashed upon landing at an airfield in Germany. I wanted you to know it was not me, we're back home in England, but the crew was from the Guard unit at Fairchild. The crew of SO-77, Major Dave Feit, pilot, Major Matt Leho, navigator, Tech Sergeant Richard Visitainer, boom operator, and yes, my buddy, Captain Ken Thiel, in the co-pilot seat that night, perished in a freak malfunction. Ken had landed the plane, they were on the ground, and suddenly it involuntarily pitched up, went back in the air with landing speed, stalled, and crashed. Losing those 4 super experienced guys this way, minimum experience on that crew is Ken, with 3,700 flight hours and 9 years of service. It shook our air community to the core. What the heck chance do the rest of us have? If they couldn't recognize the malfunction and save the plane, said all the younger pilots and navigators we trained. 16 years later, those words would comfort the parents of a much less experienced crew of pilots lost in a different fluke accident, this one over Kyrgyzstan. These aviators were assigned to the same squadron where I served, the 93rd Air Refueling Squadron. Victoria Castro, her mother told me that Tori decided she wanted to be a pilot when she was 7 years old after doing a career exploration project at school. Tori ignored everybody who said she shouldn't be a pilot. She followed her dream and graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2008. After completing pilot training and all other qualifications, she was assigned to Fairchild. In late 2002, married to fellow pilot Richard Pinkney, Tori gave birth to a baby boy named Gabriel. She completed maternity leave in the spring and returned to full flight status after completing all necessary flights. The 27-year-old was then assigned to a crew led by newly upgraded aircraft commander, Captain Tyler Voss. They deployed to support refueling operations in Afghanistan, flew together for several months. On May 3rd, 2013, using call sign Shell 77, they took off as they did every day. But this time, as the plane climbed up and over the mountains, they experienced violent shaking and yawing. Never before seen rudder malfunction, and the jet broke apart minutes later, sending them all to their deaths over Kyrgyzstan. Baby Gabriel, 5 months old, lost his mother. Peyton, 2-year-old daughter of the boom operator, lost her father. I met Tyler's parents in San Antonio last November. I sat in the room with his mother, Marcy, looking at the mementos that remain. Photos, flight jackets, flight suits, cards from friends, medals awarded posthumously, things that remain when a child dies during the service for which he volunteered. Tyler's father was very emotional about the fact that pilot error was the listed cause of the accident. And I told him, you will not find an aircraft accident report that doesn't list pilot error as a cause. I relayed the story of my friends in Germany, the highly experienced crew of SS-77. I told Tyler's parents my friend Ken, who was a senior instructor pilot, whose experience level was on the opposite end of the spectrum from his young son. I relayed the story and said sometimes in these rare moments, experience matters nothing at all, and some things just are not survivable. Hearing the story visibly helped Tyler's family in their process of grief. I relayed the story to Tori's mother earlier this month when I met her at Fairchild Air Force Base on the 3rd anniversary of the crash. See, I'm a storyteller. I connect the dots, and I've seen how retelling the story of the loss of one helps the families of another through this shared journey of ultimate loss. And honestly, I need to talk about these friends and kindred spirits. This is how I deal with my ongoing grief. This is how I keep them alive. I honor these friends today and the air crew that I never met, but yet with whom I feel a powerful kinship. It's a special ambition and joy that drives us to military aviation service. Most of us survive this adventure, and we live our best lives with continued purpose as we remember the high cost to those families with whom we served, of those of whom we served. On this day, we remember those no longer with us who gave all, whether in a training accident in Europe, area of conflict in Asia, or elsewhere. And I believe I share the sentiments of all here today who have survived our own adventures in service when I think this: there but for the grace of God, go I. Thank you for the opportunity to remember my friends today, and thank you for adding me to the program.
I would now like to introduce Gunnery Sergeant U.S. Marine Corps Vietnam veteran Nick Harper.
Hoorah. Listen, first of all, I guess I've been coming out here now for almost 20 years. I'd like to, first of all, how many of you, this is your first time here today? Raise your hand, please. We want to take time to thank you for coming out and recognizing the Seabees, Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, those military personnel that put their life on the line, those who paid the ultimate price so that we might enjoy this beautiful country called the United States of America. Today, I would like to recognize the fathers and the mothers, the gold star fathers and mothers, whose sons and daughters paid the ultimate price. Those who are here today, can you please stand up and let's give them a round of applause because their children paid the ultimate price. Once again, thank you for coming out and recognizing all of our veterans here today and those who have gone on. Thank you.